When it comes to real estate, everything matters. Whether you're a realtor, homeowner, buyer, or seller, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title is here to inform, entertain, and inspire you. Host Bill Napick from Stewart Title will talk with guests about what really matters when it comes to owning, buying, and selling real estate. Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title starts right now. Here's your host, Bill Napick.
And welcome to the show, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. Thank you so much for joining us today on this real estate adventure, radio real estate adventure that is. So whether you're listening right here in Houston, Texas, New York City, or anywhere else, we have tremendous guests all the way around, and we're going to get started right now. We have had Tiffany Pham on the show before, and she is on again today. If you do not know who Tiffany Pham is, I suggest Google Tiffany Pham. You will find out all her accomplishments, too many to mention. But right now, know that she's the CEO and founder of a company called Mogul. She has an enormous platform called onmogul.com. It is worldwide with over 18 million people visiting that every week. Along with that, she is a keynote speaker. So many things. She is an author with 2 books out. Her latest book is called Girl Mogul. I hope you enjoy, and I know you'll be motivated by listening to this talk with Tiffany Pham. And here it is. Our guest is Tiffany Pham. We're so excited all the time to talk to Tiffany. She is the founder and CEO of Mogul, a worldwide platform on Mogul.com. Her latest book is called Girl Mogul, Dream It, Do It, Change the World. Tiffany, welcome to the show.
Hi, Bill. Thanks so much for having me.
It's so exciting. And as people remember you from the last time you had your book out, You Are a Mogul. Now we're so excited to find out about your new book and to see it right in print. I have it before me, Girl Mogul. Let's tell people a little bit about your new book and perhaps how it applies to the real estate professionals that are out there listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Super excited to share more regarding Girl Mogul. So the book is one that I've been writing for several years now, and it delves into my whole entire life and career and all the lessons I learned and the mistakes I made along the way. And I think it'll be super applicable to the real estate professionals listening today. It is all about awakening that confidence inside you, believing that you can do the impossible, and the ways in which to tactically do so, awakening your awesomeness and feeling good and scheduling your way to less stress and success, and learning that mindset of it's okay if you fail, you can still succeed so long as you're learning, you're succeeding. And so it delves into that kind of mindset initially, only to then move you towards the action steps. How do you build a community around you? How do you build momentum around you through the people you surround yourself with? How do you find those people? How do you rise above and now start to ultimately contact your role models to collaborate with you and create incredible partnerships for momentum, for sales? And then ultimately, then how to build beyond that for back to your personal life, how to build upon the momentum you've built with your collaborations with mentors by then bringing it back to now your passions and your why. What are you trying to achieve at the end of the day? And then throughout that, crushing it and over-delivering, learning how to over-deliver in everything that you do, and then gain financial wealth through that and learning how to find your place in the world in this way. So it's an amazing book, I think, that will really highlight not only, again, my own lessons and mistakes that I've made in order to teach audiences more about these aspects of confidence and community and commitment and taking ideas and putting it into action and achieving incredible success in this way. But it also shares the lessons and mistakes of my friends as well. Ariana Huffington to Susie Orman to gold Olympic medalist Nastia Liukin and many more. So I am hopeful everyone will learn so much in this book.
Again, the book is Girl Mogul. Tiffany Pham, the CEO and founder of Mogul, and I'm holding the book in my hand right now. And I want to tell people it's called Girl Mogul, but I am reading the book and the success principles, the things in the book, the content applies to everybody. For example, there's part 1 is about confidence. Part 2 is about the community. 3, commitment. And as you said, one of the key elements is over-delivering. So for real estate professionals or anybody else, when we do something to some level, I think we could always do a little bit better. And I think it's important to aspire to that extra level. And that's what you're talking about in part of the book here is over-delivering, doing it really, really well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important to focus on over-delivering in anything that you do. I remember a friend of mine, Marissa, had an internship, I remember, with a politician. She was helping on his campaign. And the other interns were all working on various tasks. And then one day, one of the members of the campaign, a very high-up individual within the campaign, said, well, right now what we need to do is staple these thousands of papers together and ensure that they get mailed out by tomorrow. And all the interns groaned, except for Marissa. And Marissa instead was super enthusiastic. She was like, yes, we're going to do this. We're going to roll up our sleeves. We're going to staple every single piece of paper together. We're going to staple all these thousands and mail them out, and it'll be awesome. And then as a result of that over-delivery, because she was so passionate and excited to learn, even with the most mundane tasks possible, she left an impression. She left an impression that then got her promoted and promoted and promoted until then she had risen to the top. So I remembered that story back when I was younger, when Marissa first told me that story, and I applied it to myself as well. I started to realize that I wanted to over-deliver it. In every single mundane task, no matter how mundane, I wanted to learn. I wanted to collaborate. And so for that reason, I wanted every mundane task possible from my role models, from my mentors. I would ask them, give it to me. Just give it to me, the most mundane task of all. I'll do it. And as a result, then I would get promoted, and I would become that person's protege. And soon I would then be working on all of their ventures and projects. And then they would introduce me to the next person, the next big role model. And then I would rise up again to the top. So that happened time and again. And I so encourage every single person listening today to think about the various little things that they could be doing, that they could be over-delivering on, that then will get them rising up to the top. If they put every ounce of energy into ensuring every single time that's really good, then that's inevitable, the rise to the top.
Mindset is so important. And when we describe the real estate community right here in Houston, the fourth largest city, I forget the number, but I think it's 35,000 people are licensed realtors, and certainly not all of them are practicing or successful. However, there are a lot of successful real estate people right here in Houston, and there's a lot of competition. And I think in any field with competition, that over-delivery, striving for excellence is so important. That's how you rise above the competition.
Absolutely. That over-delivery, that mindset is super important. And, there's so many ways in which I've learned this. I just described doing so by learning from my mentors and doing this by telling them that they could give me any mundane task possible and I'll do it. But I first learned this actually when I was in high school. It can start as early as when you're a teenager. For all those that have daughters as well, sons, it's important to share this mindset with yourself, but also with those around you. It can help everyone around you, your family, your loved ones, to encourage them in this way. I learned this in high school because of a young woman named Diane. She sat in front of me, and she, in even the smallest of things, would always try to over-deliver. I remember that she had this math homework. She would always get hundreds on it. I would know because I was the one grading them. Because our teacher was a bit tired and didn't want to grade high school papers, so as a result, he would make us trade it. And then we would trade papers and we'd grade each other's papers. And I was always getting a 93. She was always getting 100. I started to see that 100 every single time was possible. It was always possible to over-deliver on every single thing. If I just put a little bit more energy into it, it could happen. Why settle for a 93 if I was going to put 15 minutes into the homework every day? Why not put in 60 minutes, just 10 minutes more of energy, of focus, of attention, and all of a sudden it could get to the 100. So whether it's time or more focus, more attention, it's all leading back to the same thing, over-delivering, and it's worth it at the end of the day. Because then with every little thing, it adds up to the bigger things, and that's how you rise up to the top.
That's so inspiring. Also, let's tell people if they haven't been to onmogul.com, let's tell them what they'll find there and the tremendous resource of this worldwide platform that, started as just a simple idea, but you went forth and executed this plan. It took you a while, a lot of dedication, and now you have millions of people on this platform, onmogul.com, every week around the world.
Thank you. Yes, it was just a little idea at the beginning. I had this idea when I was 14 years old. I had this idea that I would follow in my grandmother's footsteps, as I promised her the day that she passed away, that I would work to provide others in need with opportunities and information, just as she had throughout her life and career. And so when I had the idea, I didn't know how it would get there, but I knew that it would entail over time probably me creating a company one day to ultimately help others in need, such as women worldwide, providing them with information and opportunities. Along the way, I sought out every single job possible, every side hustle possible in order to learn the skill sets to create that company one day. And ultimately, that led me to one day be written about in different magazines and newspapers when all of a sudden, as a result, it led to hundreds of letters, inbound, emails, letters, messages from young women all around the world asking for more help and advice, asking how they could get the same jobs and side hustles I'd gotten too. So then I ended up thinking, well, I don't have money to hire engineers to create this idea that I've had since I was 14, then maybe I could teach myself how to code. And so after all of my jobs were done for the day, and at this time I was working at CBS, I was working as one of their youngest executives at the company. I was also working at nights with the Vice Mayor of Beijing, creating a venture together that could bridge cultural gaps between U.S. and China, becoming global head of marketing of this venture. Even further into the nights, I was producing feature films and documentaries with A-list talent in Hollywood. And it all worked out because of the various time zones. But as you can imagine, it occupied my whole entire day. And yet at 3 a.m. when I was done with everything, I was so excited because that was my favorite time of the night. I would clear the kitchen table and teach myself Ruby on Rails, how to code, and then ultimately it led, after a couple of weeks, to the first version of Mogul, which was a very, very ugly basic version of it, but it had all the basic functionalities that you see of it today. And then I sent it out to the thousands of young women now following me online and writing me letters, and we ended up exploding to 1 million people within our first week, becoming one of the fastest growing platforms for women ever. And now fast forward to today, to answer your question, Bill, we are now the largest female millennial platform worldwide, reaching so many incredible women all around the world, as we have now become not only the largest but fastest growing platform, enabling them all around the world to reach their goals, realize their full potential in every way possible that they can engage with us through our app, through our mobile web platform, through our social channels, email channels, through our books, Your Mogul and Girl Mogul, through our events, including Mogul X, which is our annual conference, now the third largest women's conference in the U.S., so they can engage with us every single way in this way. At our core, though, we're actually not a B2C company. We provide all these resources for free. Ultimately, we're actually, though, a B2B software company. We provide talent acquisition software to companies. We provide webinars for learning and development to companies as well, and other employee engagement resources that help in personal professional growth for employees inside a company. So we grew a sustainable recurring revenue stream in this way that would empower our users even more so because it would reinforce our mission. And ultimately, all this leads back towards global good, since for every dollar that we earn, we provide back free educational resources to girls and women in need through the United Nations and other international partners that we've partnered with in order to bring back free educational resources to the 62 million girls and women around the world who would lack free educational resources otherwise because of who they are, because of their gender, because they're prevented by their societies from attending schools.
On Mogul.com, we're talking with Tiffany Pham, author of the new book called Girl Mogul. Tiffany, let's just go back just a second. When we talk about ambition, this is a case study in ambition going back to when you put this together with your work schedule. I was doing the math. I don't know how many hours were left for sleep. When you were in that mode, what did you sleep, 2-3 hours?
I have to admit that I wasn't sacrificing family. I had family coming here and living with me and helping me and supporting me. I even have family all around still in New York. And I wasn't sacrificing friends, since a lot of my dearest friends and collaborators actually ended up joining the Mogul team thereafter. I wasn't sacrificing much else in terms of career, of course, and work, and that being the main focus throughout the day, of course. But therefore, what I was sacrificing, and or always, I suppose, be a bit of a sacrifice as you work to provide yourself with a strong work-life integration or balance. For me, that sacrifice was sleep. Sleep in that I slept probably close to 4 to 5 hours each day, and that was probably an overestimation, I have to admit. Yet, however, what's an awesome thing to get to say is that it may be the case for you for the first year and a half as it was for me. I remember actually for about 17 months exactly is how long it took for me to then get to a phase whereby I could sleep more. But the first 17 months, I remember not sleeping much, maybe just a handful of hours per night. But I was so passionate. I would just jump out of bed every single day, so excited to get to work. I couldn't help it. I just wanted to get up all the time and get to work right away. It was so amazing. And then eventually, 17 months into Mogul, and then all of a sudden we had reached that kind of stability that you dream of. And all of a sudden I was sleeping, 5 to 6 hours per day. And that's where I am today, 5 to 6 hours, years later. But, and I think in another couple of years, it's very possible I could get to 6 to 7 hours. But it's still all about the excitement and the passion every single day.
Well, that is so true. Excitement does drive and overcome some of the challenges. Let's tell people, though, physically, I mean, I've never asked you this question before, but I now think about it. What are you doing for energy? Is there anything that you stay away from as far as food goes, or is there any energy supplement you're taking that helps you stay healthy and energetic?
Yes, so absolutely. So I definitely think everybody should sleep a lot. Definitely know that is my weakness, and I need to sleep a lot more. And I will be doing so, and you should as well. Everyone should sleep as much as it can, as much as they can, and the body needs. For me, I have to admit, it's probably though genetic that I have a lot of energy despite this little sleep. My parents themselves, in their 60s, close to now 70s now, are so energetic on just the same amount of sleep as well. So I think for me, it is genetic that I can sleep and thrive and be super energetic. And everyone tells me how much energy I have compared to how little sleep I get. And so that's a fortunate aspect, I have to admit. However, I do keep very healthy. I exercise every single day. I was an athlete growing up. So in Texas, I played lacrosse. I was a Taekwondo black belt. And throughout the rest of my life, I was always running and now I actually dance every single day. So every single day I go to a dance studio and have this incredible experience where I'm dancing hip hop with like some of the best trainers and alongside me, some of the best dancers in the city. So it's really wonderful to just have a routine and find something that works for you. I know that as an athlete, I was used to team sports as a way to motivate myself to exercise and be healthy and fit. But then, of course, as you grow into an adult and a work professional, it can be harder to find a team sport to motivate you. So instead, something that ended up being funner for me, that was still individual, now that I was no longer able to be a part of a team, was dance. So for those who are in that same situation, look into, again, the different types of activities. I searched around a lot. Could be CrossFit, could be Soul Cycle. I definitely did Soul Cycle for some time. Could be Flywheel, could be Peloton, it could be dance. So I definitely encourage it, though. Every single day it gets you into a great mindset. Every morning, 7 a.m. for me. And then I go on with the rest of my day.
And Tiffany, we'll say the last few minutes, for real estate professionals, one thing comes to mind is it's so competitive. Every field, certainly right here in Houston for the real estate professional. But what are the things when you think about real estate, even in New York City, and in your life, the things that you think are important for realtors to hear? And, of course, all the success principles in the book, Girl Mogul, certainly apply. The new book, Tiffany Pham, pick it up, Girl Mogul. Even if you're a guy, I say get it. But what else should people know in that real estate mode, if you will?
Yeah. Well, Bill, you've been mentioning a lot of competition out there, mentioning over 35,000 in Houston alone. And the way in which you're going to stand out is by building a brand. The way in which you're going to build your brand as an individual professional is ultimately by breathing and living your brand. So think about what you stand for. What are your values? What do you want to be remembered for amongst the 35,000? Is there something that you stand for that is different than the others? Do you believe in providing others with a comfortable home? Do you believe in providing others with luxury homes? Do you believe in providing immigrants with housing? Do you believe in whatever it is you believe in? Try to build it into your brand messaging, your brand design, and how you are as a person, your behavior. 360. It belongs to you, and ultimately, you will be remembered for it as a result, and that will become your differentiator, and that will enable you to beat the competition. So what do you stand for? What are your values? Think about your why, your purpose. That will help you, again, to then start to implement the right messaging to then build that purpose, your why, your passion, your brand. With your design, with your messaging, then you'll be able to feed that out into the world externally, but also keep it inside you as well internally, as that then becomes part of your everyday behavior, how you operate. For example, I use the example of comfortable homes. If that becomes your purpose, your passion, your why, for the brand you want to build, then work backwards to have designs that are all about comfortableness and being able to provide comfort to others. Same thing on the design side, message side, messaging about comfort and finding ways in which to provide others with comfort. And then, most excitingly, find ways to then replicate that 360. So finding a way to implement comfort throughout the whole entire experience for someone as they work with you as their real estate professional. Like, can you provide them comfort in every part of their experience with you? From the first time that they meet with you, the way you smile at them, the way in which you greet them, the way in which you keep them in touch with updates. Find a way to implement that throughout every part of the experience, and that will become, again, the brand that differentiates you, that lets you win over the competition.
That is a great word, and I know people are motivated right now listening to you, and I want to tell people they have the opportunity to see you right here in Houston, Texas, April 18th. That is a Thursday. It's called No Limits. It's a conference put on by the Greater Houston Women's Chamber of Commerce right here in Houston. You could meet Tiffany April 18th. That's a Thursday. It's an all-day event, and we're excited. I'm going to be there, Tiffany. I'm going to be looking for you. One last word, and let's tell people the coordinates if they want to learn more about your website or anything else.
Absolutely. I hope you all follow us at Mogul, where we are on Mogul on most platforms and social channels at ONMOGUL. Or else you can find me, Tiffany Pham, at TIFFTPHAM, Tiff T Pham. And ultimately, you can also, of course, find us on our app and our mobile web platforms as well at onmogul.com, www.onmogul.com, or else search us Mogul on the App Store. We'll actually be soft-launching the latest version of our app on April 1st. So it'll be amongst the first ever in the world to get it. And then it'll be publicly rolled out to the world May 1st. So be sure to download it soon, and it'll be super helpful. I can't wait for you to try it. And that's how you can find us.
That sounds so awesome. Thank you again, Tiffany Pham. Ladies and gentlemen, pick up the book, Girl Mogul, and her previous book, You Are a Mogul. And you are terrific, Tiffany. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks so much, Bill.
Our guest is now Penny No. She is with Coldwell Bankers right here in Houston, Texas. Penny, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks for having me.
It is so awesome to see you. Here you are, one of the many real estate professionals in Houston. Let's tell people, first of all, Penny, a little bit about your company.
I've worked with Coldwell Banker, where our office is off here at Greenway Plaza. So right close to the West U and the Museum District, and we're in an awesome location.
You really are. So much is going on. So many great real estate opportunities there for buyers and sellers and realtors. That's really a busy area.
Yes, it is.
Well, let's tell people, as far as real estate goes, and they think about Houston and specifically that inner loop area, how's the market right now, generally speaking?
Well, it just depends if you're a buyer or seller. Right now, if you're a seller, the house is the average stay on the market is about 3.5 months.
Wow.
Yes. So, and then we are, this is the peak season, so we're getting rid of it pretty quickly too, though.
When we think about that 3.5 months, does that lend itself to a certain dollar segment? Let's say, in the loop, it's a little bit more expensive, but What are the price ranges when we think about 3.5 months?
Yes, and in the upper higher end homes, in a 500 plus.
So 500 plus, not to mention there's a lot of $1 million and $1
Oh,
million
of course.
plus properties there, right?
Yes, those tend to sit a little bit longer.
And of all the things you could be doing, Penny, how is it that you chose real estate as your profession?
Well, my background is I work as a seismic processor, so we map out the geology of the earth so that people can know where the drills or where the gas are trapped. With the downturn of the oil and gas, so I've kind of thought I'll head it here in real estate and give it a try, and since most of my colleagues are doing that too.
And before we continue to talk about real estate, let's tell people a little bit. You say a seismic processor. That's a show first. We've never had anyone that has been in that world. So let's tell people what a seismic processor does right in Houston. That was done in Houston, right?
Yes, it's here. Lots of oil companies. So I work for a smaller company, privately owned. So we compete with like Western Geco. Basically, what we do is we take the front end of the seismic data that was recorded from underground, depending on the source, is dynamite or fiber size. So they record those wiggle traces and thousands of wiggle traces. We filter out the noise, we process all that, and basically then we clean up everything, and it maps out the geology of the earth. And you can actually, through imaging, we can see where the fault line is, where it could be possibly trap the gas, or we can see the salt domes, especially in the Gulf of Mexico.
So when we talk about I'm picturing it because I watch movies every now and then, and when you talk about those wiggle things, I'm thinking about when we see, like especially in California, when there's going to be an earthquake, we see those little things wiggling. Is that what you're talking about?
No, this is wiggle traces horizontally, and then basically all those are collapsed and summed up together. And then we get so many traces that they are recorded through geophones. Basically, when we process the data, it's gone through a lot of phases, and it will map out the geology of the earth. So you can actually way deep the earth.
So you know what's beneath us. We know what's beneath us.
Yes.
So when you were doing that, when you were mapping these places out, were you mapping the Houston area out, or the areas where you're talking about the salt domes and things like that?
Mostly Gulf of Mexico and land. It depends if it's offshore or onshore explorations.
That's fascinating. I mean, and that lends itself. You're actually, besides buying and helping people buy and sell real estate, you're actually, prior to this, you were really in depth, to say the least, of knowing what real estate is below the surface. Would that be safe?
Yes.
That is fascinating. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is a show first. Thank you for bringing that to us, Penny. Because,
Sure.
We think about a house, right? Or any kind of building. It's sitting on ground. And certainly there's some things being done in the home inspection, or even with foundation problems and things. There's things that we can do with professionals. But when we go deeper than that, it's just the technology that's around is incredible.
Yes, that's why most of the times when we do contracts, people tend to want to keep their mineral rights. So when you buy the property, you don't get the mineral rights.
Exactly. From that to real estate, what drove you to really focus on this real estate?
Well, it's because of the downturn. So I've just thought I did take a little break and from it, and I thought I'll give real estate a try. Went to school, passed my class on the first try, my exams. A lot of people tend not to pass it on the first try. So I said, okay, maybe this would be for me.
Right. There's so many categories in the real estate licensing and things you have to know. So now that you are certainly well past that, in real estate now a couple years and so forth, but you're still new to the industry. If there's someone out there right now that, let's say, is getting their real estate license, and there's always surprises, what would you tell them that you didn't expect that you found once you started in depth in real estate?
I would say shadow someone. Shadow one of the seasoned agents. They'll give you advice, even though you just come into the office, sit, you can hear their conversations, you can pick up on things. But the best thing is hands-on experience, because each contract is very different at times. And sometimes it could be pretty smooth, and sometimes it could be pretty rough. So, and as for new, I would say to get your leads, do open houses. That's what I always advise us to do. Lots of open houses. That's the way you get to interact with customers.
And right, when you think about the real estate transaction, each one being different, as you mentioned, each home is different as well.
Yes.
And some of them are, I don't know what the percentage would be, but some of them are really nice all the way around. in whatever their price range is. But I would also say that each home, from a sales standpoint, being the person selling, let's say, has its own challenges as well.
Yes.
So we have to know that, right?
Yes. The nervous point would be we all wait for that inspection to come back.
That's right. Yeah.
So once inspection comes back, then, just depending on the situation, that could be like another negotiating point for the buyer.
And that's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned that word that's so important in every profession, negotiation. So that's something that you need to be, as the real estate professional, helping that buyer or seller all the way around to know when to negotiate and what your strengths are, right?
That's right.
So how do you do that?
Well, I've been very lucky, and for my first year, I've done about 18 transactions. And so I've got a pretty good experience with that now. So hopefully this will get my name out there.
Indeed. And that name is Penny.
Penny.
Exactly.
With homes worth every penny.
Wait a second. I like that even better. Homes worth every penny. We'll make mention of that. So the other thing that comes to mind is, for anybody, real estate is not easy. We look at the TV shows, or some people do, or the newspapers, and we think, hey, we can make a lot of money. Look how easy it is. They're driving all the luxury cars, selling, right? You've seen those shows. We all have.
Yes.
So we see that. But when you get into the real world, it's very competitive. And you have had, what did you say, 18 transactions? All right, so let's take that number. When you first started, how long did it take you for the first transaction?
Well, I started in late May, so my first, I would say about 3 months.
So 3 months. So there you are, working diligently. Finally, you get the first sale. Was that a buyer or a listing?
Listing.
So it was, the first thing is a listing. Then you said, hey, great, I got a sale. Now, when's my next one? So when did you see, what I'm getting at is, when did you see traction begin, where you're saying, okay, I got one deal or another deal in the works? When did you get that, and how did it feel?
My transaction so far has been referrals. And my signs, on the yard signs, client had called me from the yard sign. They were curious because there was one house across the street that didn't sell. So they gave me a call, and it just kind of escalated from there. It was just through referral through their friends and their investors. So I've been very lucky in that part.
Well, certainly your education and your planning, with luck and opportunity, those things come together. So let's tell people, as far as here we are, the year is well up. I can't believe we're thinking about April and May and June and all those things. It's flying by, Penny. So how do you see the year play out, and what's the feeling in your office and with other real estate professionals you're dealing with? How's it going to be this year, if you were to guess?
If I were to guess, I think it's going to be a great year because people houses in demand right now, and people are we're still building a lot. I mean, West Side, Midtown, it's expanding.
And there's still people coming to Houston from everywhere.
That's right. That's right.
That is amazing. And let's say that again, homes
worth every penny.
Because your name is Penny.
Yes.
Penny.
Penny Ngo, with homes worth every penny.
There you go. That's easy to remember. People can remember that. Also, before we close the segment, Penny, what else would you like people to know?
If anyone that's new and interested in real estate, come join our office. We have a great manager, Lloyd Lee. He's one of the best.
Is that right?
Yes.
Let's tell people how they can reach you.
They can reach me at 281-650-2315.
One more time.
That's 281-650-2315.
Easy. And to check you out, your name is Penny?
No, with homes worth every penny.
I love that. I just like hearing that. We need to put music to that. Penny, thank you for being on the show. We're going to take a short break and come right back with even more. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And welcome back. Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. I am your host, Bill Nampick. And one of our favorite topics for me is insurance. We have Brittany Taggart and John Bramlett with Stewart Insurance right here in the studio. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
We're glad
Bill.
to be here.
It's super awesome, as always. And when we think about insurance, there are so many ways that you are helping not just homeowners, business owners, real estate professionals far and wide, especially here in Houston. But let's tell people a little bit, just as always, first remind them of Stewart Insurance and what you do.
Absolutely. So at Stewart Insurance, we focus on providing proper insurance to the real estate industry. So we have two sides of our business. One side of our business focuses on properly insuring businesses who operate within real estate. So those are our real estate brokers, our mortgage brokers and bankers. And then we have our personal insurance side, and we insure those individuals who are going through a real estate transaction. So we really stand for making sure that all of our clients are confidently insured, so they know what insurance coverage they have. And so in order to do that, we always have to have a conversation and be able to walk them through and really guide them through that process when they're securing insurance.
And I like when you use the term, Brittany, proper insurance, because so many of us I don't think, take insurance seriously enough. And we wait until something happens, and then we're surprised, like, oh, that's not covered. So really up front, when you talk about conversations with customers or potential customers, they need to know what's in that policy, whether it's a home policy, auto, or if it's even a broker E&O policy.
Absolutely. And we have to make sure that we are having that conversation up front. So there are no surprises when it comes to, when life is disrupted. Even whether it's you owning a business or it's your personal insurance, we have to have that conversation on both sides.
And John, last week you brought people up to speed with some of the CE classes. And for those that don't know what CE means, continuing education.
That's correct.
For the real estate professionals out there, let's tell people what you have for us today. And we want to remind them of all those classes because it just tremendous information.
Yeah, so the 3 classes are property insurance essentials, the 2 sides of water, and then real estate liability, reduce your risk and protect your license. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today, this idea of what risk and exposure are, and then what are some of the 3 of the key practices you can implement as a real estate broker, real estate agent to minimize risk.
Because I was thinking about this. When we think about the real estate professional, like any professional, there's education, there's classes, and when they achieve and graduate from a real estate school, they get a license. It's important that they protect the license because along the way, and I know especially new real estate professionals may not think about it, but along the way there can be things that happen to jeopardize the license, just like an attorney. So the first class you mentioned addresses that specifically.
That's correct. The Reduce Your Risk and Protect Your License provides some thoughts and guidance for the real estate professional to minimize the chance that something might happen.
In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say if there's a realtor listening and they just hear that term, protect your license, I bet they're not really even thinking about it that much, maybe sometimes, but we get in such a thrust to promote our businesses. And in the case of the real estate professional, they're looking for listings, they're looking for buyers, they have other things on their mind. However, they need to protect the license. So important.
And I would even add to that, it's more than, obviously we want to make sure after you've earned that license, you do protect it, but there's other parties in this transaction as well. So it's protecting more than just yourself and your license. It's also protecting the other parties that you're working with, whether it be the person that you're representing or even the other people that you work with throughout the transaction, because there are a lot of parties involved and there are new risks in today's industry. So as John mentioned, we want to kind of go over the difference between risk and exposure, and then give our audience now 3 of the 7 practices that we go over in the class to really implement in their everyday procedures. That's
a good point. What was a risk 10 years ago versus today? There are new risks, right, John?
Absolutely. It's an ever-changing world, and that's why Brittany talked about this idea of conversations with your real insurance advisor, that needs to be part of your annual planning, that each year you look at both your personal and business side of your insurance to make sure that you're properly insured, because things change and new risks occur.
Exactly, and we're hearing about it all the time in the title world, the insurance world, and each time that real estate transaction goes down, there are so many parties involved. Everybody has to be on high alert.
Exactly.
Let's tell people some of the other things that the other class that you have that you were mentioning is.
So the one that we're talking a little bit about today is real estate liability, reduce your risk and protect your license. So the first element that we need to take a look at when we are covering this topic is the difference between a risk and exposure. A risk is a probability of an event occurring that may lead to an undesired outcome.
Let's say that again.
It's a probability of an event occurring that may lead to an undesired outcome. So that's the risk. The exposure is the potential for a monetary damage because of that risk.
That's so important.
So if you give an example, just to kind of put that into context, We drive around every single day. And so we have the risk is you can make sure you can do something to manage your risk of getting into a car accident.
Like don't leave the house.
That is one way. That is one way. Checking your
but
mirrors,
not
making
practical.
sure that you're defensively driving. And so you're managing that risk. If you're not leaving the house, you're dramatically managing and reducing that risk, right? But no matter what you do, and we'll not use not leaving the house, if you are in your car, you can do things to make sure you're managing that risk. But the exposure is that event still occurring. And so what this class really defines is how do we manage that risk? What are some things that we can do to manage the risk? But if something still happened, you can still get in a car accident, and you can do everything that you can to avoid that happening. But if it still happens, that's the exposure. What is the loss as it relates to a car accident? And so you want to make sure you have the insurance in place to offset that exposure. So that's the two elements of the class.
And there's no question about it. In fact, I was talking just to someone this morning where we were talking about they were in a car accident, and this person went to get their car fixed at the body shop. Body shops are always busy. He was saying how busy this one was here, and I remember years ago I had an incident, and there seems to be no shortage of business for body shops because some are not paying attention on the road. Things do happen.
So similar to that event, if you take that into context with real estate and what we're doing every single day, there are steps that we can take to manage our risk. And there's some insurance we can have in place from an insurance broker point of view to offset the exposure that's still there. And so we wanted to bring today 3 of the 7 risks that we talk about in the class. And those 3 are be aware, verify, and document. I guess, John, if you could take document.
Sure. So document is pretty much what it sounds like, Bill. It's record everything, note everything, make sure that everything that you do, whether it's a conversation, an email, whether it's face-to-face or over the phone, that you make notes and you document the fact that I had that conversation. So if you are to get into a situation where it becomes confrontational or he said, she said, that you have the ability to come back and show that, yes, on this date, at this time, we had this discussion and this was the outcome. So that make sure that you do that and then retain it, keep it. So you have it in your files that you know that you've documented that conversation.
And let me say this, I'm like the kid in class raising his hand. Hey, teacher, I know one way to do that. Have a journal that you write stuff into. Would
Absolutely.
that be a good way, John?
Journal would be a great way to do that.
Yes.
Whether you have it a physical one like you and I keep, or if you have
holding mine up right now,
Bill showing his, or you do it electronically. The fact that you have a journal and you keep a place for your notes so that you can show that's your practice. That on a regular basis you make sure that you document everything that comes through. If there are changes in a transaction, make sure that you document those, that you confirm those, and you have your client confirm it. That yes, I decided that I wanted to look in this neighborhood instead of this neighborhood, or yes, I've decided that I'm going to lower the price of my home by 20%, or yes, I agree we're going to increase the price of the home by 20%. Let's go ahead and make sure that we document and record that as well, and then get your client to confirm, yes, Bill, that is what I wanted to do. So again, it's just making sure that everybody's aware there's no ambiguity.
First thing that comes to mind when you talk about changes in a real estate transaction, what real estate transaction does not have at least one change along the path to closing the transaction?
Absolutely. So it needs to become part of your process, that this is how I operate. Date and time stamp, if there are any key elements that come up. If you keep your records on a computer, which we all do these days, back it up. Whether it's in a cloud or a separate disk or separate hard drive, back it up. Make sure that it's saved and protected. And then, as I said earlier, make it a process. That's just part of how you do business, that everything is documented, everything is confirmed.
And you're making me think, when you're talking about a process, I'm thinking of systems and procedures. And I have a friend of mine that's an international airline pilot, also in the real estate profession, by the way. And when I talk to him about, man, how do you fly a plane? What if something goes wrong? And that's exactly what he says. There's a checklist, systems and procedures along the way. Be prepared. Should something happen, you methodically go to that procedure for that situation. Again, once the United States Coast Guard, Semper Paratus, be prepared. Were you in the Coast Guard, John?
No, but I was a Boy Scout, and the Scout law is be prepared.
That's right. It's so important in everything. And oh yeah, have that journal. Don't forget that,
Absolutely,
everybody.
have
The
that
journal
journal.
is incredible, by the way.
Just to add on to all those documentation practices, it's also important to be consistent. So John said document everything.
Yes.
Whatever everything is for you, make sure you're consistent in that. He also mentioned timestamp. So it does help, yes, while a written journal can be a method, also make sure that you have a way to timestamp everything. And when you get those confirmations, you're able to communicate that with your client. So having it consistent is going to be key. If there were to be a claim and you were pulled into litigation by chance, having consistent practices over a period of time is going to be very, very vital when you show those records to whether it's the insurance company or you have to bring them up in court. So making sure that you're consistent is key.
Brittany, you are exactly right. Take a note from the restaurant profession. Consistency is so important. Be like the Big Mac. It tastes the same every time, whether you're in China, Houston, or wherever else, if they're doing it right, if they're consistent.
Absolutely. So
It's getting around lunchtime, just saying.
right. So the last two, so we spent a lot of time on documentation. There's two more practices that we'd like to give, and we might not be able to go too much into detail, but the first one that I mentioned, which was be aware. So simply being aware of your risks allows you to make procedures and processes in your business and implement things in your businesses just by simply being aware. So for instance, knowing how social media is being used today that creates risk allows you to set up some rules in how you use it. Knowing that you communicate electronically nowadays and those risks that come up from communicating electronically allows you to create procedures and how you might use that and how you might advise other agents to use that. And so be aware is one of those practices, and we go into great detail on how we might use our awareness to create procedures. And then that last one is verify. And so there's a couple things that we need to make sure we're verifying every single transaction, every single time. And one of those is your business partners. We want to verify who we're working with, that they're competent, that they have the licenses in place, the certifications in place, but also just communications. If we're communicating, again, electronically, we want to verify that we're speaking with the person we think we're speaking to. And so that's one of the big pillars of our class these days. Because we see a lot of risks where people are being impersonated. So we want to make sure that we're verifying who we're speaking with at all times and the information that's provided in the email.
And let's itemize those again.
So we have be aware, so being aware of our risks. We have verification, and then we have documentation.
Very, very important. And let's tell people, if they want to have this class taught by your company, what should they do?
They can call 866-798-2827 and ask for Brittany or myself, 866-798-2827, or reach us at stewartinsurance@stewart.com.
Super important. We're talking with John Bramlett, Brittany Taggart with Stewart Insurance, helping people every day, especially in the real estate community. What else do we have today, guys?
That's it, Bill. We really appreciate the opportunity to, as always, be part of Real Estate Matters and let our real estate partners know that we're here to help them with their CE classes and to ensure that their team is as successful as possible.
And certainly those CE classes can take place at their location if it's a real estate brokerage that's listening, or you probably have them at your location as well.
We can host them at our location. That's correct. Generally, we go out to see our clients. So whether it's at a Stewart Title office or at a real estate broker's office, we're happy to venture out.
So many options. And let's tell people the phone number once again.
866-798-2827.
Super awesome. Now she's coming back. Thank you guys for being on the show. And as always, for helping. Without you, there is no show. And now she's back for a quick word. Her name is Penny. No. Penny, welcome back.
Thank you, Bill.
And let's tell people once again, Penny, how can they reach out to you at Caldwell Banker right there in Greenway Plaza?
I can be reached at 281-650-2315. Look me up on Facebook, Homes Worth Every Penny with Penny Ngo.
Homes Worth Every Penny, and that's spelled NGO at 281-650-2315. And one last word, Penny, what else should we know?
Come, if you're interested to buy, sell, invest, give me a call.
Homes
Worth Every Penny.
And lastly, thank you so much, everybody. Super show today, as always. I want to remind you to stay close to your Stewart Business Development Officer. That's right. Or stay close to your Stewart Insurance Representative. Either one. There's so many things going on with both our companies. Our business development officer is out there all over the city of Houston. We have, 13, 20 locations from Galveston all the way up to Conroe. So reach out to the business development officer. Why? Because there's always things going on. They're hosting classes like Don't Get Rocked by a Hurricane. They're helping you with situational awareness. We have a retired or former FBI agent helping us for real estate protection classes, all these things. And they have some fun events going on as well. So if you don't know who your business development officer is at Stewart Title, simply Google the closest location, give them a call, and get on the mailing list so you do not miss out on anything going on. Like if you're in Greenway Plaza, right there, Kirby Grove, fantastic things going on there. Don't be sad that the show is ending at the time of broadcast, because it never really ends. It's on 24/7 all over the world at Stewart.com/Houston. That's right. Stewart.com/Houston. You can hear any and all the shows. The serial number for this show is 269. So you can hear all the shows on our website, Stewart.com/Houston. All the shows except the first one, because that one we cannot find. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Tiffany Pham. Thank you, Penny No. Thank you, John Bramlett, Brittany Taggart, and the one and only Tom Carpentier, leading Stewart Insurance in a magnificent way 24/7, even when he sleeps. We'll see you next week. Stewart.com/Houston.